Hey fam, Uni Grace here. Okay, I am doing a second live stream because energies are still super intense, and I'm sitting in a gym. Why? Because every single one of us should be doing some kind of workout or fitness right now, along with our meditations, to help with these super intense energies. So I'm just going to give a little update in the transmissions that I can share from my work on the grids. Something happened to us on the 10th of May last year, which is we had a spontaneous Buddhic awakening on this planet. And the guidance had been sharing that we had the potential to do that for about 2 years. In 2015, I was shown on the third blood moon of the tetrad. That tetrad was, we had 4 blood moons in a row. Some of you may remember that. So on the third blood moon, I was in Egypt, and we were going into the Great Pyramid that day. And that morning, the guidance said, today we bring the age of Pisces to an end. And if humanity is successful in 2 years on Wesak, we will have a spontaneous Buddhic awakening. So what does that mean? Okay, well, we have all these different bodies. We have the causal body, the mental body, the physical body, the emotional body, all these different monadic, atmic, Buddhic. So the causal body is the 4th body, and that's where our soul is held. And the soul is a vehicle. And so as the spirit comes through over and over again, it stores things in the soul. It's kind of like your best camper van where you put your favorite stuff. And when we had the Buddhic awakening on the 10th of May, the camper van dissolved. Meaning the ground was pulled out from underneath us. And for 2 years, in having that that information shown to me with my work on the grids, the guidance kept saying, tell the people now, tell the people now, tell the people to prepare now. Because what it basically meant was that we are unplugging from our personalities and our egos and our blueprints and our roles in an old play made of 12 archetypes that is dissolving away. It's something called the Lesser Akash. It's a storyline that we've been playing in. And so our causal body collectively dissolved. And how do we know that we actually had a Buddhic awakening on that day? And what the guidance said was that if enough of us focused on love, which is the 35th gene in the 64 building blocks of our current human design, if enough of us focused on love, we could shortcut this story that we're in by 7 generations, meaning we don't have to go through 7 more generations of suffering and separation in order to complete the story, because every gene in the 64 codons has to follow the evolutionary cycle, meaning an evolutionary staircase, except the 35th. The 35th is the Terminator gene. It's the shortcut out, because if you choose love for everything in your life, it's like you get the magical bonus and you get to leave the story early. And so enough of us wanted to conclude this story because we've been on recycle called forgetfulness, which is our 33rd gene. The shadow frequency is forgetfulness. And so we have been recycling through a story of pain and suffering, which has been creating a massive sea of oppression in the 47th gene. And some of us came in and said, okay, we are going to push the envelope for the collective by loving everything here and helping to fast forward this story. Back to the 10th of May of 2017, how do we know that we did it? Because the Schumann resonance, the frequency of the earth, the heartbeat of the earth, jumped from approximately 10 to 12 beats per minute to 130 beats per minute. And that was confirmation for those of us who work the grids that we involuted 7 generations, meaning folding like batter in a cake. We folded 7 generations of timelines, which is literally infinite timelines over a 7-generation period, into one batter called the Rose Line, the Rochelle grids, and we were successful. So, okay, now to the present moment and the piece to be shared today. So we're still in deep intensity. I know everyone is feeling it. How do I know? Because I'm feeling it and I'm riding the waves along with all of us. And here's the message today. Alpha and Omega, the 1st and 2nd genes within us, want to unify. Those energies within us are trying to unify right now. The earth is going through her own ascension process. We are of the earth and made of the earth. And we are also visitors upon this earth plane. And so there's two ascension processes happening. One is humanity's consciousness as a collective consciousness, and one is the consciousness of earth. And yes, everything ultimately belongs to the one in the whole. And currently, these are merging consciousnesses. And so from the perspective of what comes through me, which is unity, the second principle, the first feminine gene, at least in the 64 codons that we're working with that have been a patriarchal story, which places the feminine second and the masculine first, we are basically, the consciousness that we're moving into collectively is unity consciousness, and Gaia is rising into her own consciousness, the consciousness of Sophia. And so we're kind of like working tandemly with the earth. Now, the alpha and omega within us. So how do we work with the alpha and omega? By honoring the relationships outside of us that reflect the opposite of the current embodiment that we are in. We are all alpha and omega within, and we are currently in flesh suits that are trying to reorganize themselves to remember that union within. And so right now, do not run from the most difficult and challenging relationships in our path. Run to them, run directly into them, and do not project all the crappy feelings that we're having inside on that person outside of us, because that person outside of us is our greatest gift to help us resolve the energies within. We are the alchemists, and this is alchemy. Alchemy never had to do with silver and gold and stuff outside of the self. The alchemy is the activation of our light ship Merkaba. We're going to a 9-arc Merkaba, by the way, but I won't go into details about that right now. So run to the most challenging relationships and stop projecting our shit. Own it, sit with it, feel it, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because if we sit with the feelings that we are having, this too shall pass. If we project it outside of ourselves, if we run from the things that we think are causing it, which are not the things that are causing it, because just like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, is the external environment causing the caterpillar to go through the metamorphosis? Not so. The metamorphosis is happening from inside. And so as it happens inside of us, it is actually transforming our external reality. And the 60th gene in the 64 codons, the Earthship Merkaba, the cracking of the vessel, which I might have mentioned in the last live feed, that is the external environment transforming as us caterpillars are in the metamorphosis process. And how can we make this process more easy? By being with it, by embracing the discomfort that we're feeling, and by allowing all the storylines to fall away. So, okay, so once again, we're in blueprints. Well, our blueprints do not have all 64 codons activated, which is why run towards others rather than away from others, because then we can click in and I can exchange my codes with you and you can exchange your codes with me. And what we discover happening is all of a sudden we literally feel like the other person is looking through our eyes. That's how fast the metamorphosis and the synthesis is now happening if we are willing to participate. The last 48 hours for me personally has been extraordinary. It's had profound intensity. It's been an emotional wave up and down. And what else? Oh, and like synchronicity off the charts. And reflections of the self that are so profound from the journey that I personally have walked on the planet. So everyone will be experiencing synchronicities for whatever their journey has been. And then something really epic happened last night. When I was at Standing Rock, which was a big part of my work on the grids, I spent a couple of months at Standing Rock, and one of the messages for me the day after I left Standing Rock on Christmas Day 2016 was, it's time for unity to collapse duality inside of herself and take everything with her. So these messages are oracular in nature. They're coming from the divine, which is why I never change the wording. And I've learned that the messages have meaning on many levels, and they have meaning for all of us. So it's time for the unity within us to collapse the duality, to allow the Alpha and Omega to merge within us by relating to those relationships outside of us through communion, through vulnerability, through being open, and not running from each other. This is the worst time possible to be afraid of each other. In my meditation last night, my consciousness went to places beyond where it has ever gone before. And if you go to the 22nd gene, textbook process, the ascension process is textbook. It is all in the 22nd gene in the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. There's initiations 1 through 9. My consciousness was taken all the way through the 8th and the 9th initiations on the 11th of January 2017. The final initiations beyond Earth and beyond the human plane. The guidance said the feminine Christed vehicle had ignited in my flesh, that this was not my vehicle, that I was a humble servant of the teachings of Christ consciousness, here to bring and share the teachings. And what is Christ consciousness? Christ consciousness is the consciousness of the quantum field that says we are sovereign co-creators in the tree of love, in the tree of life, in the quantum field in totality. And so in my meditation last night, my consciousness, the final initiation, the 9th initiation, is called the refusal. And the guidance told me to take the refusal. And it said, it's going to happen real fast. Take it now. And I took the refusal, and whatever started happening in my energy field and recalibrating, and my dear friend that I was meditating with got super, super hot and left the room. And suddenly a huge fire burst outside the apartment building. And a balloon went flying out of the fire, a little helium balloon shaped like a heart. So basically what the metaphors and the messages here from reality are: allow the Alpha and Omega to merge within us by facing the relationships out of ourselves. I did sweat with beloved Chief Golden Light Eagle of the Star Knowledge family, probably actually about a year ago to this day, in Crestone, Colorado. And when he asked if I would share in the sweat, the grandmothers and the grandfathers came through with a message. And what they said was, at this time, if the masculine hands its hand to the feminine, if the feminine is stuck and the masculine hands his hand, tell the feminine to take the masculine's hand. And if the feminine offers her hand to the masculine, tell the masculine to take the feminine's hand, because this is how we go through this part of the process together, is to face each other, to find the balance, to move through this together, to know that it's not personal, it has nothing to do with us. The Hopi prophecy says, take nothing personally at this time, most of all yourselves. For the moment that you do, you will halt your spiritual evolution. Push off from the edge of the river, keep your head above water, see who's there with you, and celebrate, for this could be a time of celebration. The river is flowing fast now, and it knows its destination. So I think that's pretty complete. Run into the relationships of what appear to be the opposite of ourselves right now. Communicate, talk, be open, share, be loving, be tender, be gentle with ourselves, be gentle with each other. We are in this together and it's happening. So those are just a few little navigational tips that I can share. Make sure you get to the gym or the yoga room or on your bike or out for a run. Make sure that you're exercising your physical vessel. Make sure that we are cutting out sugars and that we are, personally I recommend ketogenic diet, which is high fat and protein. We have to burn the fats out of the body because the fats are holding the cellular memory. And just be good to yourself and each other. All right, I love you, and I hope this was helpful. Aloha. And maybe catch a wave.